Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hello. We are back. This is Down Syndrome 21st Perspectives. I'm your host, Lee, along with your lovely hostesses,
Monique.
And Anne.
And Monique and Anne both have children with Down syndrome. And we got talking about the other day getting the news. What it's like when you first hear that you are going to have a child with Down syndrome. And then we quickly turned to hope and being resilient. And that is our focus today. I just asked both ladies, Anne and Monique, what were some of the words you would say a parent would feel when they get the news? How would you describe those moments? And then you both have very different stories. I want you to go into your stories too. But what are some of the feelings people could feel when they get that news?
I think I'll just jump right in. Marley, I think I felt overwhelmed, right? I felt shocked to a degree too, because I didn't know. I think also too grief.
There's a degree. Did you think that he had something?
Absolutely. The
Before
moment I
they
saw
told
him,
you?
the moment I saw him, I knew he
I
had
was the
Downs.
opposite.
Well, and because of my experience in dealing with kids, right? And
What do you mean?
well, when I worked in child welfare, I dealt with all different types of kids, and so I had some experience with kids with Downs.
Oh.
And so I kind of feel like, not to segue too much off, but I felt like that was preparation for me having Marley, because I kind of knew some things about kids with Down syndrome, not to say that they were all applicable to Marley. So yeah.
I think that there's opposite.
I think there's that grief too. That grief too. That feeling of
Did you
loss.
have that?
That feeling of loss for sure. I mean, that wasn't my immediate feeling, but that came as I got home and started thinking about, well, your mind starts thinking, well, all the things that he can or can't or won't or will be able to do.
Future tripping.
Yeah. So
How about you, Anne?
Did you get over that fast?
absolutely. And
What is fast? I know he's 18 now, so to you, what's fast? How many years?
So I will tell you. So she said, what are some of those immediate feelings? Lee asked us, right? I think, and you and I have I've shared this with you before, Anne, that in the hospital, I remember sitting there thinking, okay, oh my goodness, feeling overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. But Marley had to stay for a little bit. And so I was in the NICU nursing him one day. And I was just crying out to the Lord saying, okay, I really don't know what to do. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And he said, I've equipped you with everything you need to raise this child. And you are the chosen vessel.
Wow.
That's
and
beautiful.
from that moment on, I just felt like, okay, if that's what he said, then I'm equipped. And so he wasn't even home yet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had all these feelings.
Yeah.
How about you, Anne? Talk a little bit about it.
He was born 6 weeks early, like basically in the lobby. So it was super fast and unexpected. And my whole pregnancy, I worried that he was going to have Down syndrome because I was old and this wasn't planned. And the doctors just kept reassuring me, like, look at this heart, look at this brain. Measurements were fine. Everything was fine. And I chose not to test. And when he came out of me, basically Jake delivered him. And then they gave him to me and I looked at him and I said, oh, thank God he's okay. Like that, my firstborn, they're like swollen faces and their eyes are, they don't look, I remember looking at him going, oh, he's not that cute of a baby, but he's going to be a cute kid. Like I just had that thought, like I just knew. And with Fritz, I felt the exact same way. I'm like, I looked at him, I'm like, oh, he looked just like Max did. And Max is wonderful. And so, oh, thank God. And I was on freaking cloud nine. I, delivered a baby without any medicine and my body, those hormones, like it was just the best feeling. I was the happiest I think I've ever been in my life.
Wow.
And Jake went out with the baby and they start testing him, like examining him, like looking at his hands and doing the muscle testing and all that crap. And so Jake walks out and sees them doing this in the hallway with him. And he sees them looking at his hands at these things called simian creases, which we have a third child who was born with those on both hands. And her birth was very traumatic. So they started looking at her for signs outside away from me. Jake doesn't tell me stuff like this because he knows how, neurotic I am. So anyways, he walks out and they said, Jake looked it up when our third was born with these, and it said, you're either going to be a serial killer or you're going to be highly artistic. And so throughout our little ones,
Oh my gosh, what a
right. And
what
like,
a prognosis.
it was like 1 in a million
crazy.
have it on both hands. And it lists like leaders, like, I don't know, Joan of Arc and I forget who else. So throughout her life, like I would take her to like a mommy and me music class, and the little teacher's going around like bum, 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 and then giving like a fake microphone to each baby. And the babies are like looking all around in left field. And mine goes bum, bum, bum. So I'm like, thank God she's not going to be a serial killer. We've got an artist.
She's really into music.
And she really is an artist. And so my husband walks out and he sees this happening and he goes, oh my gosh, how did I get so lucky?
Yeah.
How did I get so lucky to have another kid? I wonder what he's going to want to do. Is he going to be a guitar player? Like, what's he going to like? And, but he didn't tell me. And because the doctor said, I think that he might have Down syndrome and whatever. So tell your wife. Well, he didn't want to tell his wife because his wife was like so
high.
happy.
Yeah, you were on
like,
that high.
I was
relieved.
so happy.
You felt relieved.
Well, right. And he was
'cause you
okay.
felt-
And but everything was wonderful. And we pulled our kids out of school. My brother shows up at the hospital. They finally, after an hour, bring me down to Fritz. And he's in this big NICU room, not in our own room yet. It's just this like, where they just, I don't know, assess them. And in front of everybody, like I'm finally down there and they give him to me and we're standing over him and then this foreign doctor comes in and he's like, we think your baby has Down syndrome. And I just was like, I just remember it was like that Charlie Brown, wah, 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 wah. Like I didn't really hear. I felt like I couldn't hear. And because my brain was I just felt like everybody was looking at me like I failed. Like I messed up their life. And that's my own issues.
Yeah,
like,
and of course that's not true.
I grew up thinking I had to be a perfectionist to get love. And my brother was behind me. And he, like, we kind of had this argument during my pregnancy about me not testing and finding out because you could find out and then you could do something about it.
And I didn't do that either.
Right.
Well, because of my age. They said, hey,
and
you
I
need
knew
to
I wouldn't
test.
do anything about it.
Exactly. So we share that. We share that. I was like, well, what would I do with that news?
Right.
I
be worried.
I had 2 prior children, right? Very healthy pregnancies, very healthy babies. And I thought, well, why would I need to know that?
Right.
Because then what would I do with the information?
Some people say they want to be prepared, but I'm like reading a book on Down syndrome. That's not going to make anything better.
Well, and I also felt, to your point, I felt like, okay, they said I was geriatric pregnancy.
How old were you?
With 39.
Yeah, okay.
I was 39 when I had Marley. So they had said the same things to me, and it was my same doctor. The same doctor had delivered my first 2 and was delivering Marley. And like you, we almost didn't make it to the hospital. Marley was literally born as soon as we rolled in. They didn't even get my vitals.
Yeah, no. I was in
They
my
were just
street
ready
clothes.
to go. They were like ready to come out, Fritz and Marley.
They're like, can you get on this table?
Yeah.
I go to like step up one leg and he's like coming out of me like as I'm
Marley.
getting on.
Yes.
And so Jake basically caught him.
Yeah. And Fritz is your number 4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Marley's my number 3.
Wow.
And I literally thought I'm never going to see my other kids. Like this child is going to take all my, he's going to need so much. I'm never going to have a life.
And look at you now.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
You have a life and you have an amazing 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And here's speaking again, Marley's 18. So we keep everything into perspective that everybody's experience is going to be different.
Right.
But I can tell you, if you look for the silver lining, right?
I've talked
It's a
to
journey
several
and it's going
different
to be
people
awesome.
throughout this journey. And there was this one girl that I was working with. I've worked with like a lot of people doing a lot of weird things, but she was like excited that she was going to have a baby with Down syndrome. And I was literally like, why? And she has a sibling with Down syndrome. And so that brought me so much hope, because to have somebody who grew up with it, so they really know firsthand what it's like day in and day out, and to be excited to repeat that.
I love that. Let's have her on the show.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we talked about these different words, right?
Yeah.
Feeling overwhelmed, feeling unsure, maybe even feeling disappointed that you did something wrong, which of course is not the case. How did you get to the flip side? What were some of the things you did to protect yourself from the negatives that might have been coming in? Because you have both talked about there was also sometimes negative feedback. Like I know, Anne, you talked about that you went and said, I don't want certain doctors in my room. I don't want certain nurses in my room.
Yeah.
So were there certain things that, other families could benefit from that you did to kind of get back to your bubble of good and hope?
Well, pray.
Yes.
Absolutely.
My husband, thank God. I mean, the lineup, you know how God said to you, you're the chosen vessel. So this could be a whole other episode, but my husband went through something personally and it brought him to God, which he never was like this. So this had all just happened while I was pregnant with Fritz. And then he was solid for this to happen. And if he would have not been where he was, I don't know. Like, I mean, I had his support, whereas before I would have been the one that was trying to lead it all.
Yeah.
And I could
so
lean
you
on
felt
him.
you could lean on him?
He used to pull me.
And
We
that's
would leave and go
that's
be
good.
with the other kids for meals and then go back right back to the NICU. And before we would walk in there, it was up and down, sad.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're doing this. We're going to the NICU every day. And he would just pull me aside and we would sit on this bench against the window before we walked into that NICU room and we would pray. And I remember, so there was that waiting period. I don't know if you, it's not guaranteed.
It's 30 days. It's 30 days.
Well,
About
no,
30.
it was 2 weeks.
Well, it didn't take quite 30 days. They told us at the genetics clinic, at the genetics place here in Houston, that it was going to take, it could take up to 30 days.
Oh.
But we found out sooner than that. But to your
Fritz
point.
is younger, so maybe they switched their...
Yeah, maybe so. Their processes or what have you. But they set up to 30 days. I think we may have gotten it before then.
Yeah.
But in my experience was a little bit different in that, as I said, I had that conversation with God and he was like, hey, you're going to be fine. I've equipped you with everything that you need. And I would say that for me, I just kept playing all of my interactions with kids with special needs, right? In my head. I saw that kid. They turned out okay.
What do you think that gave you to be able to raise somebody?
I felt like God gave me all of those experiences because he knew that one day I was going to have a child.
Right.
And I can tell you that I had a dream about Marley. I mean, when I was pregnant with Kingston, I had a dream about Marley. And the baby looked exactly like Marley, but it wasn't. It was,
you were pregnant with Kingston.
I was pregnant with Kingston at the time.
How do you know it wasn't a dream about Kingston?
Because it looked exactly like Marley, but I was confused when Kingston was born. I was confused because I was like, this doesn't look like him. This doesn't look like him, Wow. But seriously, I remember vividly, oh my God, I wrote it in my journal. I'm like, this is the baby that I had the dream about.
Wow.
And then also during the whole pregnancy, thinking about, well, what if? The what ifs. The what if he is this, or what if this happens? And I just kept praying, and the Lord said, you know what, Monique? Sweet pea. So that's what I would call Marley when he was in my womb. Wow. Sweet pea is going to be perfectly fine.
Oh, that's awesome.
So Sweet pea was that. And he looked like a little sweet pea. His head, he was round head, flat, thing in the nose, eyes. He looked like a sweet pea, So I just, but I knew immediately. And like you, Anne, when they took him in, they had him and they were looking at him and examining him, the nurses were very kind of like, they seemed uncomfortable, right? With kind of like the interaction. And I was thinking, this could not be the first time that they've seen a child born with Downs.
They probably just don't know how the mom's going to react. I bet you some moms just totally lose it.
Yeah, I guess so. And I just felt like, this is my teaching moment.
Back in the day, people would be like, the doctors then say, we'll take care of it.
Yeah,
and they take the baby away.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I think too, you're right. I think that even now, and we're in the 21st century of medicine, I still think that there's a lot of me personally training that can go along with that. Even if you think about when you're out in public sometimes and people are like, oh, they don't expect. Marley's very verbal. I mean, he'll tell you, he might have trouble articulating it in a way sometimes that you can understand, but he will tell you what he wants, right? And he's confident. He doesn't have
someone offered to babysit because they had experience with a step sibling that had special needs and wasn't verbal for years and years. I go, oh well, she's not going to have that problem with Fritz. He's not going to stop talking, and she's going to probably be annoyed. But I mean, that's
anything else, Fritz?
Yeah.
Anything else, Marley?
It's so cute. I love it.
But I feel like we had to wait those 2 weeks. We had different doctors coming in, and one was saying, we don't need to test this kid. The other one, yes, we do. No, we don't. It was very emotional.
Wow.
But as a mom, as soon as it was said, I knew.
Instinctively, you looked up and you said he had it.
I would just look at my husband and be like, he has it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Right.
So anyways, I remember they brought us out of the NICU where he was, and then they took us into this other just waiting room area to meet with us about the results and told us. And we were both sad. But I went back into the NICU by myself, and I said to God, I said healthy baby boy. And it washed over me. He is healthy.
Exactly.
I love
And
that. Wow.
that is what I prayed for. He doesn't have a heart condition.
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't have digestive problems.
Exactly.
He's a healthy baby boy with Down syndrome.
There you are. And we know that over 80% of kids, and that statistic may have changed, that are born with Downs have heart problems. They have to have the surgery.
Surgeries, lots of
the
them.
heart surgery right away within the first 6 months of life. They have digestional things that they have to get repaired surgically. There are lots of different things that can happen.
Because of all that
right?
that you're talking about, I am a researcher.
Yeah.
My friends actually said God picked you because they know that you're going to figure this out. So basically that message made me feel oh, I got to fix this. I literally went into, I'm going to fix this. I thought I had the power to research enough and find the means to make this child not have Down syndrome. Really, I did. So
yeah, you did say that.
I mean, I really was trying.
Yeah, you did say that in the beginning.
And it is kind of all right, I can't do this. I'm defeated. But
you found a lot of things.
I did.
In the course
And I don't know what worked and what didn't, because I find a lot of very high functioning children with Down syndrome, and I interview their mothers. That's what I do. What did you do? What is your plan? What is the prescription to make my child like yours?
And all kids are different.
They do different things. Some of them do nothing.
Yes,
Some of them,
exactly. All of them are different.
Right.
Even those with all and I like to say this too, that because you are a very engaging mom, I'm a very engaging mom, I do think that those if you will, that engagement contributes to their overall success.
1,000%.
But what I will say is that we also know that Down syndrome is a syndrome for that reason.
It's just like autism.
It's going to vary. Exactly. It's going to be on almost like a spectrum.
It is a spectrum.
Yeah. So it can be mild, moderate, severe.
Well, because when you have heart disease, when you have a surgery, and then you're put on medications for whatever kind of ailment you have, then those medicines are going to cause side effects.
Right.
So not only the heart condition that makes you more tired or sleep with your mouth open, so then you're not getting the right oxygen. There's so many, sleep apnea, all those things are huge with kids with Down syndrome.
Yes.
And that affects your behavior, and it affects your ability to learn, and it affects so much.
And to your point, Marley had that. Marley has had sleep apnea. He had to have his tonsils and his adenoids removed. Wow. It was a very painful surgery.
That runs in my family, so Fritz may have that eventually too.
Immediately, though, there's a group called T21, the movement called T21. And I remember reading the literature on that when Marley was little, or their kind of mission, vision, what have you. And I was thinking, wow, it was eye-opening because they told you all these things about how the brain, with the oxygen getting to the brain and the sleep apnea and the palate of the mouth and how the tongue is, And so I was like, wow, I should have Marley test it, right? And sure enough, they said, yeah. And I knew that he eventually, the doctor, we had talked about it when he was smaller, because he would breastfeed and you could hear him all the way upstairs, right in the house.
Yeah.
Because of the palate, the way
had
the
that
tongue.
strider sound when he would eat. Yeah.
It's very loud. But at any rate, I think the point that I was trying to make was that we know that with T21, that breathing, all of those things impact the oxygen getting to the brain.
And it makes
a
my
huge
husband,
difference.
I sent him to an allergist, and he had to have all the stuff done because he would sleep 9 hours and be tired. And I sleep like 5 or 6, and I'm running around doing circles around him. But it was all about getting he had to do the tonsils and this and then tape his mouth shut because if you're not breathing through your nose, it's a huge detriment to your...
but they grow back too. So that's what
tonsils do?
Well, no, not tonsils, but the
adenoids.
Adenoids. So what were the things that gave you hope, though? Were there like good books? Were there people you talked to? Were there
people, relationships?
What were some of those things?
Family support.
I have a lot. When I got home, Fritz came home 18 days after he was in the NICU. And so he wasn't even supposed to be in the world because he was 6 weeks early. Mm-hmm. And I started Googling like Down syndrome. And I found this woman, her name is Andy Durkin, and we'll put all of this in the show notes. But she has a blog, and her blog is like the most extensive thing I've ever encountered in my life. It is just every bit of information. You can type in Andy Durkin and blah, blah, blah. Like anything you want to know about Down syndrome, and like she'll have an article about it.
How do you spell Durkin? D-U-R?
Yeah. D-U-R-K-I-n.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
A-N-D-I is her first name.
Okay.
And it's called DS, like Down Syndrome Day, D-A-Y, today, .blogspot.com. So her child is probably 15 now, I want to say. He speaks like 5 languages. Wow. He started reading when he was 2. I mean, this kid was, she tells her story, and you can look her up and probably find it, but her worth, she says, was always about being smart. And so while she was pregnant, was like, I'm going to create super baby. So she was already in the research mode and all this stuff about like, this child is going to be smart and I'm going to like do all these things. So anyways, so she just is geared that way. But I found her. I found all of her information. We had a phone call with her that first Sunday for like probably 2 hours. She told us about everything I know. And I hired doctors. I hired like an alternative. He's a real doctor, but he was kind of alternative because she almost like groomed him for supplements and thyroid stuff. And this other company called Glenn Doman, and it's a center. They have one in Philly, and then the family members broke off. And so they have like, I think one's in Utah, and I don't know where the other one is. But it's called, like he wrote a bunch of books, What to Do About Your Brain Injured Child, Teach Your Baby to Read, Teach Your Baby to Do Math, How to Multiply Your Baby's Intelligence. And My Baby Fit Baby was another one that we did. And it was, keep your child on his stomach. And don't encourage walking, actually, was one of the things. Because crawling, this cross-pattern movement is huge for
brain development.
Learning.
Interesting.
And so any kid who skips the crawling phase, it's interesting. There's a high correlation between that and dyslexia among kids. And like,
Who knew?
Even the eye doctors are looking at him like, well, they'll give him a toy. Like they're doing stuff with him in the appointments, and they're seeing if he does grabs it from with one hand, crosses it to the other hand, and like, hey, Fritz, grab that toy and put it in this bucket over here.
Interesting.
Well, does he go like this? Or does he grab it and switch hands? And
interesting.
So yeah, it's stuff. I mean, it's a lot of stuff. We hired this woman. Her name is Lois Laney, Loislaney. She does brain and oral motor brain stuff, and it was all of that stuff about sleeping and how your teeth aren't supposed to be together. Your tongue's supposed to be at the top of your teeth. You're supposed to be breathing out of your nose, and she does all these techniques of how to like activate that. Like I had to take Q-tips, dip it in lemon, run it,
Put it
in his
of
gums,
his mouth.
get vinegar, do it. I had to like run this vibrating thing like up on the roof of his mouth all throughout. Like,
Do you think it worked?
I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
I did so much to this kid
Yeah,
in
I'm
his
just
first year of
curious.
life.
Right.
We bought this QRI laser, and we had this program, and we did it every single day. We laid him down, and we put this laser, this red, those red laser handheld, and it was beeping and flashing and this red light, and we put it on these points of integrating your reflexes, like the Moro, the startle reflex. All these things are developed when you're in utero. And with kids with Down syndrome, a lot of them aren't integrated and causes problems when they, come out. And so there's different ways of trying to integrate kids' reflexes. And this isn't just kids with Down syndrome. So we hired her. We did that thing for a year. And then, Fritz wants to like crawl away from us and be like, I don't want to do this.
Right.
And we're fighting him. And I was like, this is not working.
This is the end of
And
it.
then when the moms started telling me, well, they do it during nighttime when they're sleeping or in their nap time, I'm like, I'm out. Like, I need that time for me to be with
You
my
gotta
other kids. And like, no,
you gotta re-energize.
I'm not doing that. And then it got a little too woo-woo for me. And I don't know, I stopped. Yeah.
Well, I will say this: that Anne was the one who would share with me. Hey, Monique, did you try that? Did you try that with
you
Marley?
look at me like you
did
are
you try that with Marley?
crazy.
And I'm like, what? I've never even heard of that. But I can tell you that a few of the things that were very helpful for me, obviously the T21 information, also Marley, when Marley was born, he was born here in Houston, and then we immediately moved to Atlanta. So we were immediately connected to the Emory University Down syndrome clinic, their research clinic, and it was phenomenal. When I tell you, I believe that set the foundation for Marley's
What did they tell you?
success.
Yeah, what were
Well,
the
basically, they did do PTOT. I mean, we did all those kinds of things. But what they did do that I thought was very different was they immediately started teaching us how to sign.
I did that.
Right?
Oh, good.
Teaching us how to sign. And I felt like that was really good. Their early interventions, they did obviously like a lot of progressive PTOT. I mean, we had people coming in the house like
same.
nonstop, right? Nonstop.
That kid still has a therapy every day.
Yeah. So early interventions is what I'm saying were very key.
And that is going to be another episode.
Early
because
interventions
Houston,
were key.
Texas, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it.
They don't
we
have any.
suck.
They do suck. They didn't have any of this, and that's why I said another blessing.
They have it.
Another blessing.
But so other states.
What's going to Atlanta?
Yes.
Yeah.
Other states like
for sure.
Colorado, for example, it's all free.
Yes,
And
exactly.
I had to give them my income a year, and then they go, okay, well, first of all, we'll come out and we'll assess and see if he is allowed to have these services. I'm like, he has Down syndrome.
In Georgia, which is where we moved to again, it was free. And guess
Yeah.
what else?
So
Texas,
many
get
states.
ready because we're going to be asking for waivers
Yes.
for parents of kids with special needs. Because guess what? In Georgia, Marley, anything beyond what wasn't covered by a private insurance was taken care of under this waiver, which was created by a law called the Katie Beckett Deeming Waiver.
We're going after
Okay,
that.
we are going after
Yeah,
that.
we're gonna make
we
it
need
the
we need
Monique
a Texas
and Ann
deeming
law.
waiver, right? Monique and Ann
Well, it
deeming
made me
waiver,
so
whatever.
mad
But I'm
because,
so
yeah.
serious because let me tell you, when we came back here, like Marley's therapies, all these additional things, you pay for that.
Every
stuff.
single thing we pay
You
for.
pay for it, and at home in Atlanta, we access that.
Well, they
because
said
of
to me,
his special
because of your
needs, because
income
of his-
level,
Well,
it's
it's not a-
$175 an hour.
Yeah, well, they don't.
That was cheaper. That was more expensive than me going to a private agency where I knew the person was good quality because somebody recommended them to me.
right.
That was like $125.
Well, and I want to make another plug too about a resource that was instrumental for me when I lived in Atlanta was Gigi's Playhouse. And I know Anne has had a different experience with Houston's playhouses, but I'm just saying Gigi's Playhouse, they were very, the mom, and I have to plug this little story right quick because the mom who founded the one in Atlanta, our kids, Marley and our kids, they were both her kids were at the same elementary school as my kids were. And one morning we'd be running into the school. She had her baby on her hip, same age as Marley now, but they were babies at the same time, like newborns. Yeah. And we would be running into the school. And I was like, oh my God, what a cute little girl. And we exchanged numbers and got connected. And later she founded the Gigi's Playhouse Atlanta.
Nice. Wow.
She raised all the funds, did it all. And so I wasn't a part of that startup team, but we started going to Gigi's Playhouse because of that experience. She had asked me, would I be interested in helping out? But we moved back to Houston. And when we moved back here, I was like, we don't have a Gigi's Playhouse.
Oh, that's
and
good.
so
Now
that's
we have
another.
two.
That's how we came to starting on the startup team for Gigi's Playhouse Houston.
Yep.
Well, and before we move on from resources, the
Mm-hmm.
Down Syndrome Action Plan, that's what it's called, on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
You can go onto that and you can search. You can join that group. And that is a group of moms that are like us, that are like outside the box kind of people.
Okay.
Like you could type in
I love
speech. Someone would write a question and say, what's the supplement that helped you most improve speech? And everybody will chime in. And so you can go and read all those comments and think about what you think you mesh with or whatever. And this one lady from another country said she bought her kid honey. It was Manuka honey, but she got it home from a farmer's market and it said it had bee venom. And so she looked up bee venom. Can I give bee venom to my child? And so anyways, there's another company that makes supplements just for Down syndrome. And they study all the genes and what each gene is expressed and what's suppressed and what vitamin brings up whatever they need and all the stuff. And it's called TNI. But anyway, targeted nutrition something. But the bee venom activates the same chromosome site, whatever gene that does the speech. So we bought it. I ordered it. It took a while to come and it finally came. And so we started giving him a teaspoon of it before bed. And we thought, whatever, what can this hurt? It's just honey. Yeah. And didn't tell anybody. And every single practitioner that week that he sees was like, wow, we had a great session. He was so talkative, adding sentences together and da-da-da-da-da. And our older kids were noticing it. And we were like, that's kind of like what we do with things. Yeah. And I feel like we did it for a while. Yeah. And then for some reason or another, I stopped. And then I was like, I don't think, maybe it does its little job and then it levels out.
Yeah. But that's what I love about you, Ann. I'm going to jump in and say, because you are willing to try alternative methods, right? You're willing to go out there and see. If I don't think they're going to hurt him, I think why not? Exactly. And I
if
love
it doesn't hurt my energy.
Yeah, I love that
because I
about
did
you.
talk to a lot of these moms who have older children in the beginning and older, really strong kids that are like writing papers and like doing crazy good things. And I think, okay, tell me, what do I do? What do I do? And they do all these things, like all these supplements and drugs and fly their kid to Chicago to get on growth hormone and da-da-da-da. And I just am like, I'm like a deer in headlights. Like, I can't do all this. And anyways,
I haven't done any of those things.
I was going to say, that's got to be a little overwhelming because you have to feel like we're not doctors. So we should make sure we say that. We are not doctors. We are not necessarily saying, right. And we're not necessarily saying this will be right for your child or you should do this for your child. These are just things that
feel it out and
work.
See,
right. So I would think the other piece is like, is it helpful to have a doctor that you could go back to and say, hey, does Manuka honey work? So I don't know. Sometimes doctors will know. Sometimes they won't.
Doctors are trained
to do the medical.
Yeah, they are here. I have the symptom and they are trained to figure out what medication helps that symptom.
And I also think too that doctors, unless they have a specialization in like chromosomal kinds of things, I don't think that they have really, I'm just saying, a vested interest in like measuring, like, does this work for your kid or does this? Even Marley's endocrinologist, who I absolutely adore, she's just interested in measuring, hey, is he Are his teeth, what is it?
Is he on his curve?
Yeah, exactly. If his what's the hormone that they measure? Thyroid. If his thyroid hormone is working
But
properly.
see, the world I'm in
Right?
is like only
And they
doctors will just do your TSH, and that's
Yeah,
not enough. You need to
TSH,
do
right.
all these other. There's
Yeah.
so many thyroid hormones, and there's so many things that go into correcting the thyroid that they don't. Like I had to beg for an iodine test. Well, iodine is known.
Yes.
If
I
you're
used to
short
give
in
Marley that.
iodine, then you know what I mean. So there's like, and I check his D,
I used to
check
give
his
him.
B12,
I
and
used to
have
give Marley
beg.
the iodine.
Yeah, I do give him iodine every morning.
He takes a multi or what have you, and vitamin B and folic acid. But the main thing is what I was getting at is that I kind of feel like with the endocrinologist, we've developed a relationship, but I don't put all of my trust in what this doctor's telling me. Right?
Got it.
I mean, I believe that Marley is on his own life trajectory and I can do what I can and his dad and what we can, right, to support him. But I also think it's important that every parent of a child specifically with Downs understands that every child is different.
Right.
And that's so very important because we do live in a world where everything's comparative, right? Oh, well, this and that. But the truth of the matter is that the beautiful thing I think about for me having a child with Downs is that I know that he has his own specific, unique abilities. And I've had Marley confessing that for himself. God made me exactly the way he wanted me to be.
I love that.
And you know what? He believes that.
Does Marley ever
believes it.
say like he understands he has Down syndrome?
I think he does, but not like the technicalities of it. He understands that he's
Does he
different.
know that? Does he
understands
care?
that he's different.
Does he ever say to you like, "I wish I wasn't different"?
No, he's never said that to me. He's
Does
never
he
said
ever
that to
get
me.
sad like if he's trying to do something and it's hard?
Absolutely, he does. He like baseball. You said Fritz likes to play, but Marley is not a baseball. In fact, we're not doing baseball anymore because he doesn't like it. But Mommy was the coach,
But
so I
like
was
something
like,
that he
doesn't-
does like that he can't do.
He can't. So he was right. He used to ride his bike and then he fell, so he won't get back on the bike.
Oh yeah.
So it's those kinds of
It's
things.
those
and
things
I'm
for
not,
me right now. The bike riding, the swimming.
Right.
Like, I'm struggling.
Marley loves to swim.
I need Fritz to learn.
He loves to swim, and we stayed in the swimming pool, right?
Yeah.
We had a pool in our backyard. So we lived in the
Yeah.
swimming pool.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that we're at a crossroads, right? Because he loves basketball, right? But he's also outgrowing the
friends,
So that's where I am with him. Just trying to figure out where's the
And
next
he's 18.
fit. He's 18.
Right.
Yep.
And Fritz is 5.
5. Yep.
Yep.
Big difference.
2 different.
But I want to go back and say, like, I these women that were ahead of me, they gave me so much hope. And so
That's so good.
it made me panicked that I wasn't like the ones that I said like flew to Chicago or whatever. And that doctor's now retired, so I can't do that. So then I have to go find another doctor. And a lot of the doctors here flat out said to me, like, I won't treat a kid with Down syndrome. And I'm like, what? Like, why? And so they just want to say, like, oh, this is just common with kids with Down syndrome. Well, so what if it's common? Like, it's common among women. We still treat women. You know what I mean? Like, so anyways, this one woman was like, I will help you, but I'm not going to help. I'm not going to tell you everything I did because it wrecked me and it wrecked my family because I devoted all my time to doing this. And they got very stressed and it wore them down. Yeah. And so they couldn't like advise someone new to do their journey. Interesting. Even though they produce, I mean, who knows? We don't know if everything they did made the person like that or, you know, hyperbaric chambers. I mean, I'm telling you, like, so my brain would spin and I would just constantly feel like I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. I'm failing.
You shared
I'm
that
failing.
with me.
Yes.
And you shared that with me. And I think that that's important that you're sharing with our audience that now you're in a different space, though, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, and I think that has to do, but I also think that has to do with acceptance.
Yes.
You know, like
I had a practitioner that I hired. She was a homeopathy doctor, okay, trying to get Fritz fixed. And I was like telling her on the consultation call, like all the things Fritz had, and he has this, and he needs help with this, and da 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 da. And she goes, I think I want to work with you.
Right.
And like, I was like, she's like, you need, like, he gets your energy.
I'm going to take you.
And I'm like, I know, but I'm just trying to get it all in so I don't forget. Like, I always justify my like hyperness and like spewing all the stuff. And
I think she had the right plan.
He takes your energy of your stress.
Yeah.
And I said, I know, you're right.
Yeah.
And she said to me, she goes, all you need to do is just love him.
Yes.
And I literally felt my body, like my shoulders drop like 6 inches. I just was like, oh, thank you. Like it was like the permission just to be his mom and just to treat him like I treat. That's what Jake and I said in the hospital. We said, this will not define him and this will not be his excuse. And we don't treat him like if he's fussy at the dinner table, we're like, Fritz, you can leave and go sit on the stairs somewhere and just until you're ready. I don't want to be around that right now. Like I want to eat my dinner with my other family members and peace.
Exactly.
And come back when you're ready.
Yeah.
And
you've trained him that way. I mean, you're raising him that way.
I think some people with kids with Down syndrome would just feel bad.
Oh no.
And coddle and whatever. And we don't do that.
Neither have we. So
I shouldn't say that. I have fed Fritz too much. You know, like I've done more for him.
Yeah,
because I didn't think he could, and I was in a hurry.
But that's still different because he does have some unique needs that require you to do those things.
Right. Yeah.
But just like you guys, Reggie and we really did. We agreed at the hospital. We said we're going to treat him exactly the way we treat Dari and Kingston.
Right.
And that's what we did. I mean, and that doesn't mean that we have this expectation of him doing all these things. It's just like, hey, you don't want to eat?
More
fine.
for me.
Even now, I'm like, okay, dude, you don't want to brush your teeth? Then you're going to go to school with stinky breath this morning. And guess what?
Girls
Heavens forbid you talk to a girl.
Yes, it's so much bribing.
And he runs right back to the bathroom. Okay, mommy.
Don't you think, though, it's so much bribing?
Yeah. Well, I just tell him, I'm like, dude,
you're not going to watch any more movies until you poop on the potty. I'm like, you got to just do what you can do.
Well, with all of that being said, there's a lot of good advice here. And I think maybe the last one, and I think you two found it together, is phone a friend. Phone a friend.
Yes, absolutely.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
When it's super hard.
We did tell that story, right?
Yeah, we did. In our first episode. Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
and that's how Ann and I met, right?
Right.
Oh, and that Facebook thing that I told you guys about, I will private message people and be like, hey, if you ever have time, I can, I would love a consultation with you. And people are so willing to help because I'm sure that there was someone they reached out to that helped them. And I'm open book. Anyone can call me or message me, and I would love to pay it back because
pay it forward.
That is what has helped me so much. I mean, Monique and everyone else. It just and Monique, you're the girl that like when I'm hyped up and worried about all this stuff, you just am like, don't worry about that.
Yeah,
don't worry about that.
I'm just like, okay, Ann, that's a bit extreme. I think he's going to be good.
That perspective.
Yeah. That's good to know, though. But I also feel like, that's the way God designs these things, right? He's going to put the right people in your path at the right time to give you what you need.
And God knows what I do. I go get coffee at Whole Foods every day.
Exactly. That's how we all met. Look at that. Yeah, right?
Sure. Yeah. So we hope you all learned a lot today, and I know that Monique and Ann have a ton more to share as we move forward. If there's anything you want to say to wrap it up, is there any last bits of advice you'd give a new family learning the news? What would you tell them?
I just would say don't feel bad if you're having like sad feelings or disappointed feelings. It is a grieving process that you you get pregnant, you have all these visions of what your life is going to be like, what your baby's going to be like. And then there is that book that's called like, This Isn't Italy or This Is Holland or something like that. And it's a story about how if you planned a trip to Italy, but the plane landed in Holland, you'd be like, wait, this isn't where I'm supposed to be. But Holland's a nice country too. And so you learn all about Holland.
Right.
And it's I'm still in that mission, in that, I'm getting out of it, like you said, but I still have those moments of seeing my neighbor's kids running around the street and me thinking, like he'd be doing that. Like he should be doing that with them. And he can't keep up or doesn't play the same. And so I do have those moments. Like I don't know, probably not daily, but it's hard to watch. It's hard to.
Well, and I was going to say to that point, Anne, that I feel like that's normal, right? And I would say that for me, and now Marley's 18, right? Keeping it in perspective, I think that just really acceptance and knowing that it's just one huge journey. And what I would say to a parent is you don't have all the answers.
Right.
You don't.
Right.
And use your resources, reach out to create your own support network. If that's your family, your friends, your community, read, do your own research.
But also keep yourself.
Yes.
Because I think I got into this mode of like, I'm the only one that can do this. Like, I'm the only one that can like deal with him or do it the way I know he wants it. And I don't know. It was this like feeling like, and then, the first time I left, it was just like, oh, the world still goes around and he's fine. He's alive. He's happy. And and it made me feel so good. I took a trip with my family without Fritz.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like, wow, I needed that.
Yeah.
Like I needed to just be their mom too.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like I just don't lose yourself and like have your
good.
like this is so therapeutic, just being like a real person. I call it like I feel like a real person, not like this mom in my leggings and my
well, and I think all the people people who've been listening to the show will probably feel that same way, right? Like, how do I just feel my new normal, right? Or whatever that looks like, and it's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like though the surprises are in the fact that every day I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball to see what's going to happen with Marley in the future.
3 teenagers.
But I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this. That's where I kind of go back to. So just want to say that to our listeners that hey, it's a journey. And what is it? All life's journeys have destinations. Which some of them we find our way there, and sometimes it just continues to be this kind of exploration.
All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed today. We certainly loved getting to talk to you.
Yes, thank you, Lee.
Yes,
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you. And we'll be back with another exciting episode very soon.
Yay.
So thanks for joining us on Down Syndrome, the 21st Perspectives.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Bye.